is the only one comfortable in that equation. And that's why he says, no, Yada, don't tell him the truth because I'm comfortable.
Right. Man, that's some crazy math. Now, monogamy. A lot of men don't believe in monogamy when they have access to funds. Where do you think that idea comes from?
I don't know, brother. I have 2 wives.
Shit.
Hey guys, welcome to Lord Blackburn, another one. I want to give you guys a quick video talking about Yada Talks. The other day, we had a conversation amongst the men, and we spoke about the fact that Yada is shaming men for doing 50-50. And I told you guys that whenever people start shaming people, there's usually a bigger story behind it. I wasn't disagreeing that men should provide for their families and provide for their wives, but a lot of black women were really jumping on the bandwagon, and I was trying to tell you, slow the frick down. And the reason why I was saying to slow the frick down is because he was very poetic in his language without there being any nuance or any grays in what he was saying. He was very direct about shaming men and calling them diseases, and you're not really a man if you can't pay all the bills in your household. And I said, when someone starts doing that, they're selling something. It's snake oil stuff, right? And many people were saying to me, this is godly, what he's saying. And I was like, it's not godly. You see, this is the problem we have when people don't really understand nuance. Even in the Bible, there is nuance. And if you don't deliver the word and dissect it and bring it forth correctly, you actually cause more carnage. And so when he was talking, I was like, there's something about this guy I don't know, I'm not 100% with. I hear some of the points he made and I agreed with it, but some of the conversation was off. It wasn't correct. Some of the conversation was very, like I said, the shame language told me that there was something more deeper behind it. I'm going to bring it forth so you can understand this. Once again, I want to make it very clear. I'm very much for men providing. I'll keep saying this, but not all men are kings. Right? So not all men can afford to pay all bills in the household. And I'm saying to you that majority of couples in the real world work together. We need to get out of this idea that the majority of men pay all bills. It doesn't happen. It's not statistics. It doesn't even add up with statistics. Most men are average men. All right. And the men that are exceptional and become kings who earn enough money to be able to provide for their whole entire household where a woman doesn't have to work at all is very few. And if you're a part of that, God bless you, continue. If you're not, let's have a real conversation and stop the nonsense of what we're doing. And I knew he was pandering because I could tell the way that he was using the language. It was inciting a gender war between men and women again once more, right? When I looked at the comments, how many women were like, yeah, this is what I'm saying about the men. He called, he did the whole black men are lazy, this and that. The whole spiel, which is the very same thing that we see on the black male side when black men want to gather certain, I call them men who are angry at black women, the same way we've got black women angry at black men. When they want to start gathering those people who are angry, they start using language that shames the other side, because what that does is it gets the other side like, yeah, get at them. Yeah, that's it. Check them. Yeah. We always knew that they were bad. Yeah. Finally, somebody's saying what we've always been saying. The reality is most of you are going to have to work with your husbands because you can't afford to do it on his own. And that's just a real life situation. But I think most people don't want to be in that space and have that real conversation. So when he talks, people listen. Meanwhile, he's not even monogamous. So meanwhile, all the chat that he was doing, let me put another video I'm going to show you. All the chat that he was doing beforehand, right? Problematic, right? Problematic. Let me provide our conversation we had the other day if you missed it. But if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. We appreciate your presence here as well. So, and if you are returning, if you know what it is, baby, you got the minerals. Let's get a little bit deeper into this. This was the other day's conversation, 2 days ago. Myself, Sean, and we had a panel conversation. But this very first part of the conversation was so powerful because we spoke about this and we were actually predicting this level of behavior from him in terms of the pandering and that him not being real. Let's have a look at this.
Brushes, you're a disease if you're doing 50-50, and it's like the shaming tactics or, just making it seem like if you don't prescribe to this exact formula of the way he's pitching it, then you don't know what you're doing. That to me is like, yeah, come on. it's not going to be a cookie cutter approach for every single person. And if they're not doing it that way means that they're flawed. So that part I got an issue with.
And I think, you touched on something which I think I understood as well, because there was a lot of good things in there. There was a lot of good things I actually agreed with. In fact, majority of the message I actually agreed with. I think, just like we say about the Derek Jackson thing, is almost like a little bit of a yeast leavens the bread. And it's just like, it's like that, like you just said, it's that shaming tactic. And that's what told me that he's not being all the way true. Because if I'm trying to really bring my message to men and I really want them to uplift themselves, I don't start to shame them. What I try to do is get them to understand that there's a better way of doing things. And I even might say, listen, there's even levels to certain things, because like there's a level which is, if like you were saying, you want to get your woman in the most complete feminine state, yeah, pay all the bills. That's part of it. It's not all, but it's a part of it, right? That does help. If you can get somebody into that space where you can pay all the bills, it does ease her mind and her having to think about things, because all she has to think about is, quote unquote, the family or the house, whatever, right? So that takes a little bit of that financial stress away, which I totally understood. So I think clearly we spoke about this yesterday, about the shaming aspect of the situation, right? It actually goes deeper, because when you listen to his backstory, I'm going to play some more clips for you. I want you to listen to how he speaks about women. And he spoke about how the pimpology of men doing 50-50, they're basically pimping out their wives. Do you know why he says that? Because he's the pimp. Y'all didn't even clock it. This is what I'm saying. Like, certain language he was using, I was like, there's something off about this brother, right? I couldn't pinpoint it until I went to Google it and research it. But of course, everything's allegedly apart from what he says out of his own mouth. Let's go to what he said here, right? Continue this conversation. Listen to what he says about the woman that he has, right? Listen to this very carefully.
Yeah, I completely.
We understand now. We get it, y'all. How did you meet the second wife?
I got two wives, brothers. I'm a Sufi Muslim. Yeah, part of Tijanis. And I have two beautiful, amazing women.
I want to pause it there first of all as well, just quickly before he goes any further. I think he said he's a Sufi Muslim. What's interesting about this is I saw some Christians in that hardly initiated conversation talking about, I feel the Holy Spirit. I said, I don't know, what you feeling? Christians need to start having discernment. I feel the Holy Spirit when he talks. No, because he quote one or two scriptures. Discernment is what we need, discernment. But anyway, let's go on.
I have one woman that nurtures my company here, and we've made it into one of the biggest supplement companies in America. And then my other wife, she nurtures the trucking company and the schools that we have in West Africa. So I'm blessed. Now for the men that hear me and like, oh, he got multiple women. Brother, I don't cheat. I take care of mine. If one lives in a mansion here, one lives in a mansion there. If one drives a nice car here, one drives a nice car here. It's very expensive. And I tell brothers, just because you have the money, if you're not here mentally, you'll be depressed. You'll be distressed.
Let's pause it. He said he has two wives in two different locations, right? One in Africa, one in America, right? Was this the brother that was telling us about being emotionally present? How are you going to be present when your wife is overseas looking after your company and she's nurturing a company, which is very beautiful, poetic language for basically she runs things over there and you're working like a quote unquote like a business partner, or better yet, let me say this, almost like a slave, an employee, because that's really what she is, right? So this is why I said about the language he was using, very poetic, very nice. It's Pimp 101. Like when you're talking to the outside, you use that beautiful poetic language so people don't look deeper into the situation. But in reality, when you understand pimpology, as he was talking about, right, you can spot when somebody's manipulative and when they're moving mad. This is what I'm talking about. You talk about your wives are in two different locations, and it takes a mental aspect to be there. Bro, you're not even in Africa. You're in America right now, right? So this lady who's looking after the business, let's listen a bit more.
Be distressed. Right. So we can't just be financially prepared. We have to be mentally and spiritually and also physically, because we got to have children prepared. So diet is a must.
So there's no scenario in where any of them get jealous.
Never.
You just, okay. So
when you are a man completely, you understand how to lead. And my first wife allowed me to have my second wife. I wasn't just saying I got money, I'm picking another woman. No. And they had to make sure they were great. And they are. All praises.
So how did they come?
So his first wife allowed him to have a second wife. Now, of course, as a Muslim religion, it's slightly different to the Christian faith. But, hey, I can't argue. If she said she was okay with it, I can't argue that. Question is whether she actually was okay with that. And he sent us a story.
Conversation go. I'm just curious. Like, hey, baby, let me holler at you real quick. Like, what did you say?
I I was doing business in West Africa. And I'm like, man, I'm always traveling back and forth. I need someone.
I need you to pay attention real carefully to the story, because he said he was doing business in Africa, right? The way he's telling the story already is sounding off, because you had no intention of trying to get a second wife. It just so happened to be a second wife. But let's go.
That I can really trust here. And we were talking, and I was on the phone with this sister. After the second conversation, I said, would you like to be my wife? She said, yeah. So I put her on the phone with my...
You applying pressure.
Without question. No dating, no nothing. My first wife too, no dating, no nothing.
Straight in,
because I understand the type of man I am, and I know I'm only going to attract the type of woman I need for my mission. No arguing, no fussing. Man, I'm blessed. They both pregnant right now. All crazy.
These guys are clapping for it because he told us that his wives are pregnant, one in Africa, one in America. So if these women have similar birth times, we're in trouble, because he can't be in two places at once. But more than likely it won't happen, right? But let's just think about it. Like, again, let's really deep it. 2 wives, right? 2 pregnant wives now. How do you spend enough time with both of them when they're in 2 different continents? Now, of course, maybe he's got a jet. Maybe he's got a jet that he doesn't tell us about or whatever, right? And pulling a Nick Cannon on us. But even Nick Cannon can't be in 2 places at once. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So for the fact that he's talking about how he emotionally wants to take care of them, I'm going to tell you straight, being in a whole other continent by yourself, of course, you might have family over there, but without the man who actually impregnated you being there, this is going to cause some turmoil. It's going to cause some distress. And especially if one woman is getting his attention while she's pregnant or while she gives birth, that's definitely going to cause some recoil effect onto other women, no matter how much money she has. Right. So he can bullcrap his way in, and the man them can clap for him right in the thing, but it's not exciting. It's not real. Right? We have to be real about these situations, about how psychologically people are affected.
Crazy. Oh, crazy.
All right. So many more questions just popped in my head. They're gonna be real mad. Hey, you thought that was mad before, nigga. You got to get a bite going. Cause I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like you look happy. Like I've never like this is the, like yeah. You like yeah. So would you say that life brought you even more happiness with the second wife, or is it just abundance on abundance? Is it just on joy on type of joy? Like,
hey, bro, I was just talking to my wives earlier today. Before I came, they want to give y'all some shouts outs as well.
Shout out to them.
Hey, but bro, I'm talking about, man, these women have elevated my life in ways I can't even understand.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm pushing this message so hard. Stop being 50-50 because you're robbing yourself. Because when a woman's able to nurture and she has an environment of peace, man, come on, it's nothing you can't do. Nothing.
Yeah, but she's running the company on the other side. This is what he's not telling you. You're right. So he, quote unquote, built a company and he's not going to be there. She's running the company on the other side. So technically, yes, of course, he's built a company. Technically, he's providing, if you want to call it that. But in reality, he's not there. That's why he chose her as a business partner. So all he's done is he set up a business for her to run. And then he gets the profits from it. Deep, what's actually happening? Does it not sound like pimping? Because that's essentially what it is. But we've got to call it for what it really is, and what's actually happening in that situation. And maybe I can do a part 2 because there's more. Because there were other women who too didn't know that he was already having this situation and fell into a polygamous situation with him. Let's go a little bit deeper.
Messaged him about being a student.
Let's go a little bit deeper. I want to bring this here. Hold on.
Whatever they want out of these women, money, sex, and live a very comfortable life around it. Currently, she is now 28 years old, but back when she started her spiritual journey, she was only 23, and she wanted to explore the world. She wanted to explore what the world had to offer. She wanted to get out of this virtual prison that is the United States, and she traveled the world. She lived with these sister wives. She became part of more than one family where she was in a polygamous relationship. Eventually, she caught the eye of our very own Minister Yada and began a polygamous relationship with him too. Now, the intricacies of how this relationship started is actually very typical of the way it goes. So he was in a polygamous relationship with multiple women at first. When he met Netiri, he was already in a relationship with multiple women. Okay. Now, these other women, of course, knew about one another, but they didn't know about Netiri.
Messaged him about being.
Well, let's pause it right there. So first and foremost, he had other women, which they knew about each other, but this one didn't know about the other women. So he wasn't being very honest. He was lying. He was being deceiving, right? Well, let's listen a bit more.
I wanted to be a part of the village. I want to be a part of the nation. And his message to me was basically saying, I'm exactly what he's looking for. And from then I was like, okay, hold on. I was asking to be a student, but it looks like he's turning into something else. So I went along with it. I was like, okay, cool. He said, the way I'm looking for it. Then okay, cool. So we started to hang out. He took me on dates, and it was really wonderful at the time. But I didn't know that he was dealing with other women. And me with my psychic self, I just.
Meanwhile, this brother told us he doesn't cheat. He has 2 wives, but he doesn't cheat. Sir. When I say people are pimps on this stage, I guess this is what Tony Gaston was kind of alluding to. But I knew straight away by the language he was using. And that's why I said that when women were jumping behind him and were trying to tell them that he shames women, shames men, people were saying, no, he doesn't. And I was like, no, he does. And we know exactly where that comes from. And so when you're seeing that type of behavior, right, all of a sudden we haven't got monogamy. We've got a cheater. We've got somebody who's a liar too. And he's out here trying to tell, and I've got no beef when people do their own thing, right? Behind the scenes, everyone's got a different life. People do things. I'm not going to be mad at it. What I don't like is when people don't tell the truth when they're doing their particular on their platform. For instance, when they're saying about men paying no bills, that's not the reality of life. And you're trying to pimp women now into buying more of your products, get involved into your ecosystem, right? Because if you shame black men, that's going to get black women on your side. Not all, but the women that are already hurt and annoyed and frustrated with black men and the black men in the dating pool. If you can shame black men, then by all means go for it, because those women will then respond. Just like black men, I said earlier on the video, black men that are hurt respond to shaming videos that are on the black women's black women because they're hurt, right? We'll listen a bit more and then we'll get off here.
I do tarot readings. I dig deep into the situation and saw that he was dealing with an ex-partner, a karmic relationship that he needs to overcome. And then I asked about it, and he says, yes, there's somebody that he's dealing with that he needs to release, an ex of his. I'm like, okay, ex-girlfriends, I know how it is. You guys can release them. That's all. No, it was a whole wife that I didn't know about. I didn't know that he was dealing with other women. Okay? Ashay and I was with Yada going around Atlanta. Aja was in Ecuador. When Aja came back to Ecuador, he took all of us, gathered all 3 of us into a hotel and told him what he was doing. He said he wants all of us to be in a polygamous relationship with him. We just thought he was just cheating on all of us with all of us. But it wasn't like that. He courted us, got us together, and we became 3. We became 4, actually. And became in a polygamous relationship.
When he meets these women, he actually talks them into this life.
So this doesn't sound like the brother that's saying, this is Nook. And that's what I said about being very careful, right? I'll leave it there because there's more. I mean, there's alleged ex is being beaten up by him, scamming that he did in his business with the actual business that he runs. There's a whole bunch of stuff that was happening beforehand. But this is why we're trying to warn you about him on provisions on Hardly Initiate, the language that he's using. You can dress up all you want, but the heart of what he was saying, we could tell literally just by the way he was speaking. But maybe if there's more interest of it, we'll do a part 2. But I think I've said enough on this situation. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button.